So we're seeing a bunch of people log in. If you just joined, we have a comment section at the right side of your screen. So please type your name, where you're from, what company you're from. And we also have a Q&A button. So feel free to ask questions anytime. Let's give the others 2 minutes, 2 more minutes to log in, and then we could start. But welcome to the latest installment of the Recruitment Hackers webinar series. We're very excited to have you over here, and we are excited to share our insights for this afternoon. So let's give everyone a couple more minutes to log in. If you just joined, again, feel free to type where you're from, your name, and what company you're from in the chat, and just say hi. I know the BPO industry is relatively small, so the chances are you might know each other, might work with each other in the past. So say hi. And I'm actually seeing a couple of familiar names and new names, which makes us very excited too. And as usual, this community is mostly attended by people from various parts of APAC. And we're very happy to gather everyone from TA leaders to professionals in this community where we talk about the latest trends in recruitment in the high volume space. So let's give everyone 1 more minute and then we could start. But if you just logged in, say hi in the chat section, say your name, where you're from, and what you do at your current company. And again, we also have a Q&A button. So if you have any questions, if you would like to ask our panelists any questions during the event, feel free to do so, and we'll make sure to allot time to answer your questions. So it's 2 minutes in, let's start. I'm going to share my screen. And welcome again to the latest installment of the Recruitment Hackers webinar series. For this session in particular, we will be talking about how the future of work is shaping after the past 2 years of having to work from home. And with COVID restrictions easing, a lot of BPO companies are now slowly working on site and transitioning to a more hybrid sort of setup. And we've had a number of our clients tell us about how challenging it is to remodel their current processes from a virtual one to a fully on-site hybrid sort of dynamic. So of course, we've invited Mr. Marvin Vinluan of Alorica. Hi, Marvin. How are you today?
Hi, Blanche. I'm good. Thank you for asking. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me once again to be part of your Recruitment Hackers live webinar.
It's our honor, Marvin, and I'm sure our audience is very excited to have you here too. If you know Marvin, if you've worked with him in the past or you're currently working at Alorica, show him some love in the chat or in the chat button. And so quick background about Marvin. He is the current Director of Strategic Sourcing and Recruitment Marketing at Alorica Philippines. So he's here to talk about how they're adapting to the new work dynamic. And of course, as you all know, Alorica is one of the biggest BPO companies in the Philippines, not only in the Philippines actually, but in the world. So we're definitely in for an insightful discussion this evening. And also joining him as the moderator of this panel is our very own Mila Navarro. She's our social media strategist who has been working with some of our biggest BPO clients. So hi, Mila, and I'll let you take over.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending this very interesting chat. I am certainly very curious about this topic because, during the last, I would say 3 years, because, before the pandemic, things were a specific way. During the pandemic, we had to quickly switch to a completely new way of working. And then again, we're now having to switch once more. So many changes for the BPO industry. So I'm just really curious to ask Martin a few questions. And before we start specifically on, post-pandemic transitions, I'd like to know a little bit of history because I'm very interested. We were just talking about it. Can you tell us a little bit about how hiring used to work, let's say 7 to 10 years ago? How did you used to source and recruit for talent?
Yeah, so it's a good way to start a conversation. Looking back is typically a good point of reference. Maybe 5 or maybe 10 years ago, because I've been in the industry for quite some time, about 17 years ago, I started joining the BPO as a actually as a recruitment phone screener. Way back, we typically have a huge number of applicants being processed through job fairs. So these are, these are face-to-face interactions, physical job fairs that happens here and there. We used to, travel a lot across the Philippines to look for, the top talents to the different provinces in the Philippines. So I was part of that, and I was actually also a relocation coordinator. So you can see there's just so much dynamics when you're trying to attract the top talent across the country. So job fair really is our main source where we get our talents from. Then second to that would be employee referrals. So employee referrals also, managing the network of our employees. You try to maximize that resource. But how they source is also through interactions. Like if they go through like their annual school alumni interactions, so they get to meet their friends and refer the company they work for. And that was pre-pandemic, and it's, online at that time is really sort of say non-existent. Especially the recruitment chatbot is non-existent. All of the social media probably at that time, and sorry, it might, reveal my age. Friendster was our social media back then. I don't think Friendster is existing anymore. But we don't use them as our sourcing channel. So a lot has changed. So when we approached 2016, 17, 18, that's when the time the AI started appearing. Machine learning. We've been hearing about data. We've been hearing about the advent of automation, and that's when we realized that social media is becoming a thing. And now, and I know for sure some of the people who are in this webinar can relate to me. At that time, Twitter was actually leading, and then came Facebook. When Facebook came, it was like a spike. And during, as we entered the first year of the pandemic, we saw that there's a huge uptick in applications from online, and now online is becoming our main resource or sourcing channel when we look for applicants. I think we were fortunate enough because of the large employee base of Alorica. Employee referral increased its relevance. So when we talk about employee referral, the share of hire, we used to get around 40% of our hires from referrals. During the pandemic, it went as high as 70%. And people are, able to market the company through online, and that's where they get the referrals. Where else? Because we couldn't go outside. And then the job fair that I talked about earlier was zero. It went from 60% to 0% during the pandemic, and that's a huge switch. We couldn't let go of job fairs back then because it was really our main sourcing channel. But then when the pandemic happened, who knew we would actually survive using online and employer referrals? So that's where we are now.
That's interesting. That's a big change. I've read some figures that have said that if the pandemic hasn't happened, it might have been another 20 years before we actually transitioned into, such a digital, augmented chatbot, AI, RPA, and even automation augmented process. So it's interesting. What happened was interesting. Now I'm very interested in, so you realized that there's a huge, talent pool in the digital world waiting for you to advertise for your jobs, to find them, to give them, a good candidate experience so that they can apply. And you've been using TalkPush for a while. You've been automating your process, delighting your candidates with an excellent process. And that pretty much allowed you to surf the waves of the pandemic successfully. But now, we're coming into almost half of 2022. People are already sort of, becoming a little more comfortable with the situation. And a lot of companies are now transitioning back to an on-site work model. And I know that this comes with a lot of challenges, probably because things worked during the pandemic, right? So I'd like to know how Alorica is doing this transition in two main fronts. First one, in the front of sourcing. You are already seeing a lot of success with digital sourcing. You realize that you don't necessarily need to have an expensive job fair or, set up a shop in a supermarket to gather candidates. You already have social media and you already have referrals. So that transition for sourcing, and also, of course, your employees, how are you transitioning them from a remote to an on-site, or is it hybrid? Please shed some light on this. It's very interesting.
Okay. So let's start first off with sourcing and attracting talent. Definitely, we've adjusted most of our recruitment process online. The thing is, when we started transitioning to on-site, we also have to take into consideration or keep in mind that we are still in the pandemic. We're not in any way out of the woods yet, right? So anything can happen. Like the new variants are coming in. We still have to maintain that mindful actions when we all converge into on-site. But we do process candidates today on-site because we also need to understand that in the Philippines, there are still applicants who still don't have that internet connectivity or the computer or the PC at home where they can continue that recruitment process. So we have to adapt to making that candidate experience a hybrid experience. So number one is anything that we can do and process online, like virtually, we have to do. Like, for example, screening process has to be done over the phone or virtually. The one-on-one interviews with the hiring managers should be done online, because the fact remains that we have to limit still the number of people coming in. And then we provide access to our candidates on site when they need to take the assessments, especially the client specific assessments that needs a more quiet space, because we know at home, it's going to be noisy. If you're going to take that language assessment, there's just ambient noise that you cannot control. Animals, that or pets that you might have at home may disrupt your performance when you record your voice, right? So we need to make sure that our facilities are able to accept candidates on site to take their assessments and provide that quiet space. And then once they're there, at least the experience is just going to be quick. It's in and out. They don't have to wait long hours. Unlike before, candidates I knew, sometimes they spend 8-10 hours staying in the recruitment hub just to complete the entire process. So imagine today is now different. We have that advantage to process candidates half of the time at home and half of the time on site. So that's on the sourcing front. One of the challenges as well when we have started going back on site is more candidates are now looking for work at home opportunities, and we all know that the BPO industry is complex. It's not as simple as telemarketing or anything. So the businesses are quite complex. Some clients cannot allow us to work at home because of security, data security, and we all know that, right? But some clients are very acceptable on that aspect. Like, for example, content moderation, back-end work, and some other simple, maybe retail industry. So, it will remain to be a hybrid setup, because we don't want to lose that ability to also attract talent from different parts of the Philippines, right? Where, it doesn't necessarily now require the company to set up shop in a far-flung place. We can hire them and have them work remotely. On the business side, there are a lot of changes. When we started transitioning employees on site, we still have to ensure the safety of our workers. And that means we need to remain vigilant, and we're able to remind our employees to maintain safety protocols at all times. So first is, of course, there's a requirement for us to present our vaccination cards. There's also a requirement for us to respond on the daily health survey. So these are things that we need to put in place. And that's one of the things that we need to remind our employees to continuously follow protocol. And over the last 2 years during the pandemic, we've grown, and transitioning to on-site maybe is a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing because we were able to grow despite the pandemic, and the bad thing is, when I ask some of my new team members to work on site, I have to look for to make sure that they have available workspaces. So the space is finite, and they don't have workspaces when we hired them. So that's one thing. We need to make sure that they have the PC, the badges. We have to coordinate with our security team, facilities, and of course our IT. So that's that, because we've grown and they never really have the need to work in office at that time when we hired them. It was a big change. So it's sort of like an onboarding, an extended onboarding experience for them. And then the other thing is we have a robust or a very established process when we retrieve the devices. So when we deployed the Alorica PC or laptops to our employees during the first year of the pandemic, now's the time to slowly retrieve them, right? So we didn't require our employees to bring their PCs with them while commuting, right? So we have our facilities team and security team work on a process where we can safely retrieve the devices, and so that our employees can go back at work safely. So those are the challenges and some of the fun stuff that happened when we started going back on site.
That's very interesting. We actually have a really good question in the Q&A, and we're going to answer it in around 10 minutes. That's actually our next topic. It's very interesting. I want to see what you think, Marvin, because I know that this is a little bit of a more controversial topic, specifically in the Philippines. So I'm going to launch that Q&A specific question, a very good question. Thank you for the person that brought it up. Anyway, I've heard a lot of places talk about this, where going back to the office is a challenge because they have grown so much during the pandemic that there really isn't any place anymore for all the people that are now collaborating. And even the fact that, a lot of people don't know each other, a lot of team members have never actually seen each other face to face. And I think it's a universal experience for BPO companies. And it makes sense because that you have grown after the pandemic basically forced you into the digital, automated social media sourced talent model, because efficiency does drive growth. So I think it's something that's both a positive and also a challenge, as you said. But it's interesting to hear it because you're not the first leader that I've heard say that. So we have the challenges that you have sort of encountered. And now let's go into that question. So the question is, curious whether there was any attrition among the sourcing recruitment team when Alorica started resuming on-site operations, and how was it managed, if any? I think this person is probably referring to a post-COVID trend, to put a word to it, which has been largely called the Great Resignation. The Great Resignation, for those of us who weren't familiar with this before, is basically a movement where a lot of millennial and Gen Z workers have been quitting their jobs because of a few reasons. Actually, the Deloitte Global 2022 survey has surveyed a lot of young workers who have resigned from their jobs, and they cite stress, burnout, for the reason for quitting. 40% of Gen Zers and 24% of millennials report that they would leave their job within 2 years if they had, the chance to do it. many of the reasons were pay, mental health, and a lot of them reporting things like burnout. Another interesting thing is that in the LinkedIn 2022 Global Trends Report, 3/4 of employees who were surveyed prefer a hybrid or remote working situation, with 63% of respondents saying that work-life balance was their top criterion when it comes to choosing a company, even above pay and benefits. So, good work-life balance, learning and development opportunities are some of the biggest asks that Gen Zers and millennials are sort of asking their employers post-pandemic. They already got a taste of what it's like to be able to build your life around your work schedule, which is going to be a little more flexible, or even just being able to stay at home and not have to face traffic or even just exposing yourself to other people in the pandemic. So I think this is a really good question. In terms of was there attrition in the Philippines, there have been different perspectives. A recent study by Sprout Solutions reported that in 2021, voluntary attrition or resignation from their jobs across all industries increased by 176% in the Philippines, which is in theory a local reflection of the global movement called the Great Resignation. However, some others, some other government agencies, for example, have disputed this claim and have said that it's actually nowhere near that much, So I'd love to know, has it been that way for Alorica? Has this transition, led to, to more attrition, or are people sort of demanding a hybrid? How are you dealing with employees demanding hybrid models if your clients are maybe saying, no, if you can go on site, we need you to go on site? How do you strike that balance between employee and client demands?
Right. So I actually like this question, and the question I think is really more on sourcing and recruitment, and that question is actually okay. So I don't think anyone is spared from the pandemic in terms of this situation. I would say the people moving out of Alorica within the sourcing recruitment team has several reasons, and then some of them actually are still close. I mean, we still maintain connection, right? So we still have that. But the reason I think is, the numbers are just, there, but you can feel it. Even if it's just a 1% difference, we felt it when people said, sir, I'm too tired. I want to rest for a while. Or sir, I would like to take a break. I want to focus on my family first. So those are situations that are, I think, common, and we're not spared. But the thing is, based on my experience, they left not only because of they wanted to rest. In the Philippines, we cannot afford to, not have a job, right? So they would move out to another opportunity, which also has the same situation. It will still be, there'll be a lot of work. It's not going to be different. You'll be working sometimes during graveyard shift. So there's a lot of trade-off from what I see. It is simply because the pandemic has caused, or it has become a catalyst for people to explore. And then that's the truth. And the burnout is because some people, or some of us, forgot the distinction between work and life, because we are at home. We forgot, hey, my travel time is typically about 45 minutes to 1 hour when I go to work. That 1 hour for me is something that, I don't think of anything. I just travel. But that 1 hour when I'm working at home becomes work. So you kind of feel like your typical 9-hour day job becomes 10 or 12-hour day job. And it's all a matter of perspective. So if you're unable to control your time, and that's because you are just when you're taking your coffee, you turn on your laptop, you started working, and it's a trap. People typically open their emails and then they started working, and it's not even their time to work. So sometimes it's about discipline. So our responsibility as leaders, and I would suggest to all the leaders who are in this webinar, is to ensure that we remind our team members to put some barriers, and when is the right time to work and when's the right time to rest. So for us as leaders also, we have to discipline ourselves not to bother our team members on wee hours of the day, because that will trigger them to open and turn on their PC, because and that's a cause of people feeling burned out. And yeah, we had that, and during the first few months of the pandemic, we didn't know what's going to happen. We didn't know what to do, how long it's going to be, the lockdowns are going to happen. So we've had our fair share of attrition, even during the pandemic, and even after people decided to do on-site. So here's the thing: I did not experience someone said, or maybe I had one, because she moved into the province. They were working in the province. She said, okay, I just wanted to stay in the province with my family, and then she decided to resign just simply because they're already in the province. So that's the only one I had. And I did not see a big wave, and hopefully not, knock on wood. I didn't see a big wave of people resigning because we are going to work on site. Actually, when the government mandated us to start going on site again, so we had to prep our team 2 months before this even happened. So I know earlier this year we had the Omicron scare, right, in the Philippines, and then after that, people recovered, and then the government said, no, we have to go back on site. So we had to prep our team members. There was team A and team B. Team A works on Mondays to Tuesdays and Wednesdays on site. So it's still a you glide to that. You don't just say, okay, 100% cold turkey, everyone goes on site. It's a process. It's a change management thing that you have to make. Some team members requested to be working from home. That's fine, but it's a trade-off. So there will be weeks they'll be on site. There will be days they'll be off site. The thing is, you have to give them or make them realize that working on site is also a good thing. You get to see team members, like what you mentioned earlier. You get to see team members, and as a leader, you make it a little bit more exciting. You huddle. Food sharing is still not allowed, so it's still going to be packed lunches. So meetings are going to be a little bit more exciting because you get to see them, and you inform them that, hey, going on site isn't bad at all, because you'll still have your moments of peace when you travel to work. And then when you step out of the office, and that's the time you can really set your mind that, hey, work is done. I won't have to turn on my laptop when I get home, and the time is for me. So those are the things you have to explain to your team members so that they can sort of like adjust. I myself too had to adjust when it was when I went back to on-site. It was I'd say it was a different feeling. It was a different feeling when seeing people, but it was scary a little bit because you have to have your alcohol on hand and all those things, but eventually it becomes a norm again, so you just really have to manage that change.
That's great. I love your change management perspective. So it sounds like what you're saying is there's still a hybrid model. One of the secrets or important things that people should take into consideration when transitioning is remember it's a transition, right? Make it gradual, ensure that it's, you start with hybrid, and as the need or even, the possibility arises, then maybe some people will be moving to on-site. And that framing and communication is very important. You have to make sure that you frame it into a positive light. And I like what you said, because I've been reading a lot about, what tactics are some companies, starting to use, because some industries or some people are really actually experiencing really bad attrition when moving to on-site, or even just in general, because maybe millennials and Gen Zers are, reevaluating their choices of work, of life. And it sounds like a lot of companies are having some focus in supporting more, for example, social or climate causes, including more mental health support. When it comes to, even when coming on site, they have framed it as, hey, we need to go touch some grass together, right? Like, we need to see people, we need to experience the real world. And digital only can also be detrimental for your mental health, for your physical health. Are you standing up? Do you have the right setup at home? Are you going outside? And so there's a lot of things that companies are doing, like volunteering, for example, or including more communication when it comes to what that company is doing in terms of climate change, social causes, all of those things. So I'd love to know, are you maybe managing some of this change by attacking this source of causes and mental health that so many Gen Zers and millennials are worried about, or that are preoccupied about?
Yes. Actually, if I may just share, one of the things that we launched during the pandemic, actually even before the pandemic, it was already existing, but we knew it's becoming sort of a cause for anxiety when people are working at home. It's becoming a problem. Like, for example, during breaks, the family issues or concerns or discussions is interfering with their focus, right? So we have what we call Alorica Heart, and it's a hotline for people who wanted to reach out to professionals who they can talk to, like to speak to a professional who can, a psychiatrist or a professional that can really help them manage their mental health well-being. And it's not common for Filipinos to have that, to be honest. It is not something that we're used to do, and it's not something that we only see it in movies. So having this online and virtually is a good thing for us. And then during the first parts of the, when we relaunched it, there's an uptick of usage. We know even which sites have the highest calls, and of course, not all the time people are able to, let's say, of course, it's based on schedule and it's based on their availability. But yeah, we have that kind of hotline that we still use today. Even after the elections, people are, anxious. Some of them are kind of distraught of the results. So it did not match their expectations. So they kind of lost focus, and yeah, we have this something that they can reach out to. So I cannot manage that because I myself also may have those experience. So we have professionals stand by to help them out.
I love that. That's very nice. I can relate to almost all the things that you said, including feeling disappointed with election results. But I mean, there's a lot going on in the world, right? I don't think it's a new thing or a rare thing for us to feel anxious. And I do feel like when you're stuck at home and your work life, the news, the computer, the family issues, everything is sort of colliding together. I do feel like separation sometimes can be really good. And, I personally prefer a hybrid model where, if I have to stay at home because of the situation, I can work at home, but I do appreciate on-site as well. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that can relate to that. Just the fact that your brain, understands that a certain space is for work and a certain space is for rest. And mixing that up can be detrimental to your discipline, to your habits. I'm one that, for example, when I'm at home and when I'm working from home, I cannot stop snacking. And I know it sounds like a superfluous thing, but it's just one example that my brain doesn't really understand the separation between pleasure and work. And sometimes everything just becomes work because, it's just a thing that happens to a lot of people. So I'm just curious. And this is something that Max also brought up. There are a lot of people who love working in the office and who are probably very tired of working from home, or maybe, they have small children and it's very difficult to focus when the kids are at home because, they're not going to school, or even if they just don't like it, right? So do you have marketing campaigns to recruit or source for the people that specifically really want to go on site, who are tired of remote, who are tired of digital, who want to go outside and see people and, be in an office and have a little bit of normalcy or like normal life back after months of just staying at home? And have you identified those people, and do you have, recruitment campaigns specifically directed for them when it comes to the people that are on site? And are there any segments of the population which are more friendly to on-site work? How can we target them via advertising? Do you have any insights on that?
So based on experience, the one thing that we did right away was change most of our ads, because work at home is now becoming more of an incentive for agents that are performing, because they don't need a lot of supervision. They can essentially be independent. They are an expert in their field. So after they train on site, they are deployed, work like like a chance to work at home, right? So all of our hiring today is really train on site, and then in select programs they would do work at home. So we had to change our campaigns and our job ads. And I'm actually about, well, initially I was scared that it might, lower my leads or decrease my applications, but it didn't. So which goes to show that people are, they understand the demands of the industry. We still have a lot of people that are, they accept on-site work as real work, because we're still, a big chunk of our labor market still is in the traditional way of working. They want to work on site. However, because of the pandemic, most of the experienced ones, the call center experienced agents, understand that, and if they have proven that they can actually work at home, and those are the ones that are a bit difficult to convince, because they already have established their setup at home. They know they can do it. So, and the thing is, there's also a big, like a huge, how should I say, uptick on job openings that provide work from home setup. And I would like to name a few, but I wouldn't. But I'm sure the people who are in this call can relate. It's hard to compete with them because off the bat they start work from home, and in our case it's not the case, right? It's becoming more of an incentive for us, which is good for the experienced candidates. But before they even go to work at home, they have to spend like 2 months on training. So I guess there's still a big and a huge chunk of people who are wanting to work on site. But if you want to be technical about it, Mila, I would suggest they would do like a zip code analysis and then compare that to the network providers in those areas. So a zip code analysis typically looks at your employees who are able to work from home, find out where in Metro Manila or provinces where they are located, match it with your telco provider. Say, for example, Globe is strong in this part, Converge is strong in this part, Smart is strong in this part, but this area is somewhat spotty. And that's the time, you can actually look for candidates in that area. And that's just being technical about it, right? So you want to put and target your social ads or your Facebook ads in that particular area. So you can do that. You can do geo-targeting and whatnot. But you know what, because of the improvements of the infrastructure in our telco providers, there's really just a huge coverage now that has better internet connection. So, you know, even as far as Ilocos Norte, they're starting to install fiber connections. So, and some provinces there really can, you know, be proud that they have strong internet speed comparable to Metro Manila, sometimes even faster. So in Davao, it's the same thing. Cebu, definitely. So things are changing. And the challenge is for us to be able to attract um, and deliver the message properly and set expectations correctly. Let's not use job ads like work from home and then when they apply, you actually need them to train on site, right? So it's just going to create a bad candidate experience. So what we did was change everything, change our ads, and all of them are more of on site.
And has that been detrimental to your results? I'm
No,
curious.
no, actually, it didn't change. But actually, the thing is, it's now an option, right? Like it's one of our, we asked and I worked with Julian about it to fix our, you know, recruitment chatbot, because we also have a web bot that's installed in our career page. It's more of a qualifier. Like if a candidate's looking for work from home, they channel to this campaign. If a candidate is looking for amenable to work on site, then they go to this campaign. So when we process them, you know, the expectations are already set right on the first, you know, candidate experience.
Yeah. And that goes to show, like, for companies that are, you know, they've already adapted it to digital, not just the companies, but the candidates themselves, you know, they now have different expectations, and so do employees. And that just goes to show that if you're going to recruit on social media, you need automation, you need chatbots. Like there is no way that you can do that manually without a smart system that can help you segment those people. And like every time I talk to leaders like you, it just sort of cements more in my mind. And it's surprising to me that some companies still manage to do it manually, because it's just so much work. It's so many people, right? I wonder. And I'm curious, like, looking ahead and seeing how these trends, you know, are becoming more and more, not really a trend, but like the normal thing, you know, expecting to be allowed to work from home or to have a hybrid work mode if you are a performer of a certain caliber, or even, you know, expecting it right off the bat if you're experienced. And recruiting on digital, having a lot of volume coming from social media, you know, lots of leads that you really need to filter, that you need to automatically be able to segment and prioritize, you know, who you're going to call for certain accounts. Where do you see the industry going? Where do you think, you know, we're going now that the pandemic is, of course, not over, but, you know, there's like a new normal now. There really is, you know, we just have to adapt to the new life, right? And I think it's never going to go back to the way that it was. What you said, you know, previously, about calling people and, you know, setting up big events. And I don't think that's going to come back anytime soon. But where do you see the BPO industry going in terms of sourcing, in terms of what tech they're going to use, in terms of candidate expectations and experience, and of course, the hybrid workforce? Where do you see this going?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, Mila. So I would answer it this way. Before, when we were hiring for call center agents, we were just looking for customer service and tech support. And when you talk about tech support, it's about internet service providers and all that. And that's how simple it is. The BPO industry has become more complex than that. You know, we started seeing programs or clients requiring sales experience, upskilling, and then they started asking for, you know, we started getting clients from the finance field, and then now we have healthcare, and then now we have voice, and then non-voice, and then we have and I know for sure some of our participants would relate, our clients are looking for universal agents, and it has become more complex than ever. And now we have unicorn industries, or companies in the retail, and then food deliveries has increased their requirements. Telco during the pandemic has increased 1,000-fold, so their requirements has become more and more complex. um, I think the BPO will not stop in terms of changing the services that they provide. The BPO is so flexible and adaptive in a sense that if there is a new industry, they are there. It's either they're the trendsetters, or they're there like at the time that it becomes even before the time it becomes a trend. So for example, content moderation is a new client. We all know that content moderation because is increasing because of user generated content, right? So we have people who needs to monitor that, and we have automation in a sense where cars are now driving by itself. So we have to have agents who can teach the AI behind it. So teach whether this is a road sign, and this is a person, or this is a cat crossing the road. So there's just so many things that BPO industry is servicing today. And in a recruitment sense, who are we supposed to hire, or what's the guidance, right? What's the agent profile looking like? And we cannot process that without the help of automation. Like, for example, as simple as asking an applicant several questions. It's like ordering food, right? If you're very sensitive, you don't want some nuts, you have to give the waiter instructions. Are there food here that's causing, it's going to cause me allergy. So when a person asks the waiter, or when the waiter takes the order, the waiter has to ask several questions. It's very similar to how we ask applicants. Hey, are you amenable to working graveyard shift? Do you have experience on project management? Do you have experience in the finance piece? Or are you amenable to working like a retention piece? So there's just so many things now. So you can't just ask that and expect all your recruiters to process all of them with the right information. So I think when we evolve, the more we augment ourselves with the help of automation, and the BPO industry will continuously be present in all aspects. The business is changing. There's just so many technology behind it. And I guess I can say we are in the right business, because this is sort of like your job security. It won't die. Even there's a pandemic, we actually have to hire even more. And I can see there's a question here. Have been hiring nonstop even during the pandemic, and that's true. And how do we keep our teams engaged and experience work-life balance? I think I mentioned that earlier. We have to be, as a leader, we have to remind them to stop whenever they extend work. But then, going back to the topic, it's really BPO is it's like your open garage when you can park any type of car inside it, and that garage can take in that support. So I guess that's the evolution, and I've seen it when I first joined the industry up to today. I've seen it has evolved. It's not a simple industry anymore. It's more demanding more than ever.
Yeah. Anyway, this was so interesting. Thank you, Marvin, so much for all of these insights. I'm so curious. I could continue asking so many questions, but I think you've really, made it very clear that the BPO industry is very disrupted by not just global events like the pandemic, but also by technology, by social media, by so many different things. It's a complex industry. So I'm really happy that you joined Recruitment Hackers, where we try to, gather the latest trends and share some insight with our fellow HR and recruitment professionals. So thank you so much, Marvin, for your time. And over to Blanche, who's going to continue with the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mila and Marvin, for that very insightful discussion. Yes, the times are evolving, and the need for companies to evolve with the times is crucial, and that is why we TalkPush has really devoted a lot of our efforts in evolving and coming up with new technology that could go with the demands and really um, capture everything and engage with all of our candidates at the same time. So with that, since we started talking about technology, I wanted to invite one of our customer success managers at TalkPush, who has been working with some of our biggest BPO clients, to show you how we've been partnering with Alorica and how we use our messaging chatbots and our tech to help companies hire faster and more efficiently than ever before. So Carla, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Blanche. Thank you. Hi,
Hello.
everyone. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for that, Blanche. And hi, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Carla, and I am one of the customer success managers here in TalkPush. And first of all, I would like to thank you for joining our webinar today, and I hope you were able to relate to what Mila and Marvin discussed about returning to office, since a lot of companies right now are requesting their employees to return back to office for work. But regardless, if you are working from home or working on site, TalkPush is a tool that you can still use, and something that you can still maximize in processing the leads that you guys have. So today, I will be sharing a little bit about what TalkPush is, and how we currently help our clients by automating the recruitment process. So let me share my screen. Um, or Blanche, can you share your screen again with the demo slide, please? Oh, I can do that. Okay, there. So as I have mentioned, I will be sharing with you guys what TalkPush is and what we do and how we help our clients currently. So to a brief introduction of what TalkPush is, it is a recruitment automation platform that focuses on high volume recruitment, which is why majority of our clients are in the BPO industry, in retail, and even logistics. And you might be familiar with some of the logos that I'm currently showing you guys right now. But and they are coming from different industries actually, but they have three things in common. One is that they are getting a lot of leads on a daily basis. Second is they promote a great and better candidate experience. So they would always want that their clients, or not their clients, their applicants are having a great time in applying, or it's easier, faster as well, in terms of application. And the last, as I have mentioned earlier, we are focusing on high volume recruitment. So these companies that I'm showing you, these logos that I'm showing you guys right now, are companies that are hiring in bulk or in volume. So they can actually hire at a minimum of 80 to 100 a month, and it can go up to 5,000. So, and these clients, these geos or these logos, they're hiring, or they're using different sourcing channels to complete all of their hiring requisitions, and they are using different social media channels, not just social media, different sourcing channels to get those leads. But we have discovered, as also mentioned by Mila earlier, we are getting a large talent pool from social media, and I'm showing you guys right now like how many users do we have currently for those different social media channels compared to LinkedIn, Indeed, and other job boards that we are using before. And that's it. So right now I will be showing you how are we processing the leads inside TalkPush, or what the CRM tool looks like. So what I'm showing you guys right now would be the CRM, the TalkPush tool, and we are under the Leads tab, which is where you'll be spending most of your time with if you're a recruiter who is using TalkPush. So we have here the different campaigns. We have the list of campaigns that you guys have inside TalkPush and the different folders as well. So these folders, we can create customized folders that can mirror your recruitment process. So this is where you're going to find all of your candidates, the conversation that you had with them, and basically everything or all of the information that you were able to gather during their application process. So we have their candidate's ID, their mobile number, email address, their application details. We are also gathering data points or attributes that are important for their application. And you should be able to find here as well the questions and responses to questions or the pre-screening questions that we have set up inside your campaign. So everything about the candidates, you can find it under the leads tab. And since I have mentioned pre-screening questions, I'll show you guys right now how are you able to set up those questions inside your campaigns. So you basically have to go to the campaign settings, and this is where you can customize or optimize the different questions that you would like to ask the candidates. So most of the time, we are suggesting or we are recommending that you put knock out questions, make or break questions here, so that we can really filter out, or we can help you, TalkPush can help you filter out those qualified leads from the not qualified ones. So we have different question types that you can use. So you can ask them to share with you a number, an audio response, a video response. You can even ask them to upload the file, or they can choose from the different options that you're going to proceed. So basically, that's how you're going to set up the questions. So as I also mentioned earlier about automating or helping our clients filter the qualified leads. And this is where you can actually find it. So we have a feature called Autoflow wherein we automate specific processes inside TalkPush. So whether it's moving candidates from one folder to another, sending them a message, or putting a label on their profiles in TalkPush, that's something that we can do inside Autoflow. And I'm just going to show you quickly how you can set up one. So for example, you would like to transfer a candidate automatically from one folder to another. So for example, you have already completed all of the pre-screening questions. So you basically just have to appoint a folder, where are they coming from? And then you're going to set up the trigger. So if their BPO experience is, let's say 0 to 6 months, there, we want all of those candidates to be transferred or moved to shortlisted. So you can even toggle on the send message template if you would like them to receive the templates that we have set up inside your campaign. And there you go. So if you have already set this up, or if this is turned on, all of the candidates who will answer 0 to 6 months on their question related to BPO experience, they will automatically be moved to shortlisted. So other actions that we have here, just to show you guys, would be to assign label and even send them messages from two different sourcing or different communication channels in TalkPush. So that's it for the campaign settings and autoflow. I think I'm just going to show you a little bit about our analytics. So we have our own analytics dashboard that will help you and the team keep track of the leads that you are getting, the productivity of your recruiters as well inside TalkPush. So we have different tabs, we have different graphs and filters that you can maximize or use to get the data or to get the numbers that you are trying to find, basically. So we are showing the demographics. We are also going to show you the different metrics or data based on sourcing channels that you have connected inside TalkPush. And if you want to know more about the productivity of your recruiters, like how many leads were they able to process, how many movements did they do, or activities they did inside TalkPush, that is something that you can find out in the recruiter productivity report tab. And we have data or like analytics that are based on campaigns or focusing on campaigns, communications, and even the candidate experience. So those are the different analytics tabs that you guys can use or maximize in TalkPush. And if you would like to know more, you guys can book a demo with us. So for you to be able to book a demo, let me just show you here. You can just scan the QR code that we have here if you would like to book a demo with us, or if you would like to know more about the different features that we have inside TalkPush. And there you have it. Thank you so much, Blanche.
Okay, thank you, Carla, for that wonderful demo. As Carla just mentioned, I'll share my screen again if you would like to see more. So what you saw was pretty much just the tip of the iceberg. We have several features that could cater to different recruitment processes. TalkPush isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, and it's designed to complement your current processes. So we'd like to give you a customized demo based on your current pains. So scan the QR code or shoot me a message, shoot me an email. And with that, we are at the very top of the hour. Thank you again for joining us at this wonderful community. The future of the workplace is constantly evolving. So thank you for joining us. TalkPush is here to help companies adapt as fast and efficiently as possible. So again, I'm Blanche, and this is Recruitment Hackers. And thank you so much for joining us, and see you at our next events. Bye, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Bye.